Good afternoon. An investigation is underway following a suspicious fire at a commercial plaza in Scarborough.
The fire began in a vehicle before spreading to buildings in the plaza. CTV's Janice Golding has been following the investigation and joins us live with more details. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, for the second time in 4 months, fire officials have been called to put out flames at a Scarborough massage parlor. Now, we're standing in front of a strip mall here in the Eglinton and Kennedy area of Scarborough, and that's where emergency officials were called at around 2:30 a.m. to respond to a break and enter in progress. When they arrived on scene, a car and a building were both on fire. From what we can see here, the worst damage is to a unit in the corner. Now, there is no visible sign here but as a result of the fire, but when we were here back in April for another blaze, which coincidentally was also set at 2:30 a.m., signage indicated the business was called Seven Heaven Massage Spa, and a business by that same name at the same address continues to be advertised online. Here is more from Toronto Fire and residents who live above the business.
They did face some significant challenge. Fires did get into the overhang, and they had to be ripped open with our saws by a couple crews. We had to bring in another crew to assist because they were burning through our blades.
I was woken to loud bangs, loud noises. Yep. So when I look out through take a look through the windows and that, I see smoke start coming upstairs and that. So I had to get out of the apartment and notify the other neighbors.
There was alarm and there's a lot of smoke. But my neighbor, Neil, he's the one banging on the door to wake me up because I fell asleep.
In all, 10 people had to be evacuated. 3 were assessed by paramedics, including a firefighter, but no one went to hospital. The investigation continues. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Andrea.
Thank you, Janice. 2 men have been charged in connection with a human trafficking investigation dubbed Project Mermaid. 42-year-old Marcos Ariel Marioni and 30-year-old Carlos Gutierrez are facing a combined 16 charges. Peel police say the investigation, in partnership with the OPP and Correctional Service of Canada, was launched last November following allegations a female victim was being trafficked and sexually exploited in the GTA. Investigators also allege one of the accused used an unauthorized cell phone in prison to communicate with and manipulate the victim. Now, police say the accused are associated with the MS-13 street gang and believe there may be more victims.
Police have released photos of a man wanted in connection with a sexual interference investigation in the city's East End. It allegedly happened on July 16th. The suspect is accused of sexually assaulting a young person on a TTC bus at Victoria Park Station. The suspect is described as between 30 and 40 years old, roughly 5'8", and was last seen wearing a green polo shirt, dark gray sweatpants, and dark sandals. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward.
Still to come, the latest on the escalating trade war between Canada and the U.S. We'll have more on the American plan to increase tariffs on Canadian goods, as well as the response from Canada's premiers a little later in the newscast. Ontario's Ministry of Natural Resources says 173 wildfires are burning in the province's north. Most of the fires started in the past 10 days. They have forced more than 1,800 people from their homes, with 12 of the 13 evacuated communities being First Nations. Yesterday, First Nations leaders called for a public inquiry into Ontario's wildfire response, accusing the province of leaving communities to fend for themselves. Premier Doug Ford has insisted his government has done everything it can to respond to the wildfires. Well, as wildfires continue to burn in northern Ontario, groups in and around the GTA are working to assist those impacted by the flames.
GlobalMedic is sending fire suppression equipment north to assist with the firefighting efforts. And CTV's John Musselman joins us live with more on the aid that's being provided. John.
Hi, Nathan. I'm just outside GlobalMedic's warehouse location in Etobicoke. And yes, we'll show you some video here. What they're doing is sending up these fire suppressant firefighting kits. And what really you're talking about is units that they can put on the back of a pickup truck so that volunteer firefighters up there can use these to get as close to the fire as possible to start working to help bring them under control. Now, as we've seen from the video in northwestern Ontario, these fires are burning out of control. At least 56 of these fires are out of control. 13 communities have needed to be evacuated. And we really got a sense of the smoke last week here in Toronto when the sky really turned orange because of the smoke drifting down here. Now imagine what people are dealing with in those northwestern Ontario communities. So GlobalMedic, along with Muslim Welfare Canada, are coming together with funds and equipment to help send it up to northwestern Ontario to do their part to help bring this under control. We had a chance to speak to Rahul Singh with GlobalMedic. Here's what he had to tell us just a short time ago.
That's a fire skid unit. You can see it's a 1,000-liter tank. It's mounted on a welded aluminum skid. There's a pump and hose, and it turns any pickup truck, and you can imagine how many pickup trucks are in this region, into a fire truck. It's made in Canada, and what we've been doing is we've been working feverishly to get these units out into the hands of the smaller volunteer departments that lack equipment to get more firefighters out deployed onto the fire. With a unit like this, you can get closer to the fire, you can deploy more of your people, and you can get the fires out.
Now, these units will be loaded onto trucks and driven up to northwestern Ontario. They're also sending up some fire suppressant equipment and clothing as well. That'll be flown into Thunder Bay on Air Canada cargo. So that's the latest here from Etobicoke. Reporting live, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. A rally was held in the city's East End this morning calling for no jets at Billy Bishop Airport. The group Toronto East Residents for Renewable Energy gathered near Pape and Queen outside the constituency office of Federal Environment Minister Julie DeBrusson, who served as MP for Toronto Danforth. The group says allowing jets at the island airport puts the entire waterfront at risk of noise and air pollution and would also negatively impact the downtown core with increased traffic. The TTC board is meeting today with several items on the agenda.
They include efforts to crack down on fare evasion, as well as a call for additional funding from both the provincial and federal governments. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us now live from City Hall with more on the meeting. Beth.
Andrea, this is the last TTC board meeting of this current city council. That's because of the civic election in October. And as you mentioned, a number of issues are up for discussion. TTC board chair Jamal Myers joined staff and executives to mark this last meeting ahead of going into those discussions. He spoke about some of the challenges the TTC has been tackling over the last few years and where improvements on the system still lie. A big part of that has to do with funding. Myers says the TTC remains severely underfunded and is one of the only major transit systems in the world without regular operating funding from other levels of government. That means day-to-day costs are increasingly being relied on by the city's property taxpayers. Millions are also being lost in fare evasion. One step the TTC took in 2025 was closing crash gates. These are the entrance ways that people could freely pass in the before next to ticket agents. Now there are barriers.
On fare evasion, after years of doing nothing about it, the board has taken decisive action to start dealing with a problem that costs us about $140 million every year. We closed the crash gates and saved $9.5 million in 2025 alone. We put more enforcement officers on our streetcars and netted another $3.5 million. All told, enforcement measures have saved the TTC nearly $13 million a year.
Myers says without sustained funding or funding from other levels of government, the system is becoming increasingly unsustainable. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan and Andrea, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. The third annual Couture for Cause Yorkville Fashion Show is set to take over a roadway in the neighborhood this evening. The show will close down Cumberland Street from 5 p.m. to 11. All proceeds from ticket sales will go to the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. The event is working to raise $150,000 for KMH. Police are reminding drivers that until 11 p.m. there will be controlled access to Cumberland Street from Avenue Road, and Cumberland will be closed next to Village of Yorkville Park.
We have more news in a moment, but first a look at the forecast. Here's a live shot of the city this afternoon. A cooler start to the day. Certainly a day for maybe people wearing pants instead of shorts. It does kind of feel like fall today. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison with a look at the current conditions. And we've had a few heat waves, so I guess we can handle a day or two like this.
Yeah, it is interesting though, Nathan. All of a sudden it feels a little more like September out there, and we are now heading into the point of July where it is traditionally our hottest weather of the entire year. Not so much today. Certainly a fresher feel out there, but fresher air too, which we'll talk about. Here's the satellite and radar. We've got the showers moving out, a little bit of lingering cloud in places, but that too is expected to clear. Teen temperatures in most places across southern Ontario at this hour. Some will climb into the 20s, so that will be nice. But look at this, only 16 degrees right now in Owen Sound and Muskoka. We can thank northwesterly winds for that. The winds are quite gusty. But again, in the wake of that cold front, we got some fresher air. We're at a 2 on the Air Quality Health Index, and wildfire smoke has left the area, at least for now. Here is today at a glance. We're forecasting an afternoon high, perhaps as high as about 23 degrees, but it might be a struggle to get there. Lots of sunshine over the next couple of days. We'll take you through the weather forecast coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Stats Canada has released new data on hate crimes in this country. The number of hate crimes reported to police in 2025 dropped 3% compared to the previous year. Hate crimes against the Jewish community were down 16% in 2025. But the community remained the target of 71% of religion-motivated hate crimes last year.
The extremists that are targeting Jews with hate crimes are targeting our way of life as Canadians. And it's not just Jewish Canadians who are in their crosshairs. There's a need right now for the laws to be enforced, for there to be sufficient resources allocated to our national security and police services and prosecution services across this country, and to take every step across all levels of government to restore a Canada defined by peace, order, and good government for all Canadians.
Data shows the overall crime rate in Canada was down 2% in 2025, with fewer homicides, vehicle thefts, and break-and-enters. Well, amid the escalating trade war, Ottawa now says Canada will no longer celebrate the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge with the United States.
Instead, a Canada-only celebration will take place on Friday. The bridge, which connects Windsor and Detroit, is still scheduled to officially open on Monday. The change comes as details about the deal to open the bridge have been released after conflicting messages about the revenue sharing between Canada and the U.S. The official details come more than 10 days after the federal government announced the delayed bridge would be open on July 27th and contradicts previous comments made by Prime Minister Mark Carney.
According to the online release, the deal is described as a proposed agreement in principle, which runs parallel to the original Canada-Michigan crossing agreement from 2012. The deal states that Canada will share 50% of net bridge and crossing-related revenues with the U.S. for the first 15 years.
That stipulation conflicts with comments the Prime Minister made on July 12th when he stated net revenues would only be shared after debt costs were recovered. In the original deal, Canada agreed to front the $6.4 billion construction costs and collect 100% of toll revenues until recouping the full investment. Funds now being shared with the Americans will go towards the Canada-U.S. Economic Development Fund, which will be controlled by the U.S.
And the dispute over the bridge comes amid the latest tariff threat from the Trump administration to impose 50% tariffs on a variety of Canadian goods. CTV Scott Hurst has been following this story and joins us with more. Scott, so quite a few items are going to be impacted by this.
Nathan, good afternoon. This 50% tariff will impact a whole host of Canadian items. Upwards of 500 additional products will be impacted by this 50% tariff that is being threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump. That's about 5%, or roughly $28 billion worth of Canadian exports, as the White House itself in its press release pointed out, from wine to hockey sticks to cement, with a list of other items you see here on your screen, including dairy, wine, plywood, diaries and notebooks, clothes, along with cut flowers and bulbs. According to the White House, it says the U.S. president is taking action to hold Canada accountable for what it believes are unfair trade practices. Notably, U.S. President Trump is taking issue with provincial bans on U.S. alcohol and supply management on dairy, as it says it is, quote, trying to level the playing field for crucial American exports, Nathan, like cars, alcohol, and dairy.
Now, of course, these tariffs impact not just Canadians, but also Americans. And that might not have been what they were hoping. But what are we hearing from economists on that?
And this is what we've been hearing from Canadian officials, particularly for many months now, whether they've been talking to American media, the American public, or someone from the Trump administration, trying to say that a tariff on Canada is ultimately a tax on the American public. We don't yet know, obviously, what the cost will be for this latest round of tariffs. They have not yet been implemented, but for the tariffs we've seen, ultimately, we've seen inflating costs on both sides of the border as the costs trickle down to the consumer, not just in Canada, but in the U.S. too. So according to some estimates, Trump's tariffs are costing the average U.S. household between $1,400 and $2,400 Canadian dollars per year. And more information from Democrats and the U.S. Congress Joint Economic Committee says American consumers overall paid more than $230 billion in tariffs, costs passed down to them between February of last year and January of this year for an average of more than $1,700 U.S. per family. So both estimates really in a similar range. Now, on our side of the border, Nathan, it is estimated the consumers, are shelling out roughly $2,300 to $2,700 more since these tariffs came into effect. Of course, as I mentioned, we don't yet know the full cost of these latest round of tariffs. They have not yet been implemented. So right now, it is a ticking clock for the Carney government because these latest tariffs will be implemented in less than a month, officially on August 19th, Nathan.
Yeah, significant amount of money already. CTV Scott Hurst in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
In Washington, America's trade czar said today rebalancing the trade relationship with Canada won't happen overnight. Jamieson Greer is appearing before a Senate Finance Committee hearing that is reviewing the Trump administration's 2026 trade agenda.
Canada has benefited from the best trade agreement, even under the trade treatment, even under the president's trade policy since last April. The vast majority of what they're sending to us has come in preferentially. It has remained that way. It's been consistent that way. Even now, with the tailored actions we took this week, we're fighting against a ban on American liquor on shelves. We're fighting against hard caps on export of American cars. So we've never banned Canadian products. We've never done that kind of thing, but we're fighting against caps on American cheese. I think about your cheese producers. They should be exporting more to Canada. Canada's refused this. So we're trying to balance this relationship.
Greer says the U.S. is keeping the market access in Canada. He told lawmakers that he spoke with his Canadian counterpart yesterday, who did not say Ottawa will be retaliating. Greer hopes to strike home interim agreements on elements of the North American Trade Pact by year's end. But he says many of the thornier issues like rules of origin, labor, and the environment will carry over into 2027. Still, Greer insists the U.S. is moving with all due speed.
And U.S. President Donald Trump insists tariffs protect American industries, but recent polls show a majority of Americans are not convinced.
CTV's Joy Malvin has more on the impact the tariffs are having south of the border.
For 44 years, this family-owned wine and liquor store in Washington has delivered rare vintages and specialty spirits.
A lot of the dessert wines over here specifically, and then you're looking at Inniskillin and Jackson Triggs, which are two of our favorites. So we keep those year-round.
Also on the shelves, a bit more of Canada. Whiskey's a big seller, about 10% of their liquor sales. But the U.S. president has put a target on Canadian booze, and that will mean fewer choices and higher prices.
We dealt with the same problem with France, and it's kind of just a game of chicken and seeing who's going to blink first.
Wow. And what happened with the French wine?
We ended up eating a big chunk of the tariffs ourselves because we didn't want to pass that along to really our really local and loyal fan base.
The tariffs would also take a bite out of their cheese selection. Ontario and Quebec cheddars are in high demand.
I don't see how this is going to do anything to punish the dairy farmers that make this and people that try and sell it. The prices go up, people buy less. And I don't see how that's going to help anyone.
When Canadian provinces retaliated against Trump's first tariffs boycotting U.S. booze, Donald Trump complained bitterly. It cost both sides of the border, but this new 50% tariff, even some trade lawyers are shocked.
You know, really puts Canada in a unique and unfortunate position of having among the highest tariff rates of any trading partner. You know, a lot of companies cannot do business with a 50% tariff.
Back at the wine and cheese shop, Will Merck just shakes his head.
I mean, we're neighbors. We should get along. It doesn't make us look great necessarily all the time, as it just makes us seem a bit of a bully.
With a month to go before these new tariffs come into effect, all business owners can do down here is to wait and hope that trade talks get back on track. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
Canada's premiers have gathered in Charlottetown for a second day. Prince Edward Island's premier, who is hosting the meeting, says the U.S. tariff threat is just one of the topics that the premiers will be discussing.
We met with the Prime Minister yesterday virtually to talk about strategy going forward. The important thing is that we're all united. We've got to show strength and resolve and get through this together. But that's what Canadians expect. They expect us to work together and get results.
We think the Health Transfer Act needs to recognize the needs, because we cannot grow our economy and invest in our defense sector and improve all of our energy offerings without that healthy workforce, and that requires the federal government to contribute at the same level as the provinces.
Meanwhile, 9 of the 13 provinces have agreed to remove interprovincial barriers to alcohol sales. Under the agreement, provincial rules will change to allow Canadian producers to sell alcoholic products directly to consumers, regardless of jurisdiction. The premiers of Quebec and the 3 territories did not sign on to the agreement. CTV's Rachel Aiello joins us now live from Charlottetown with more on the premiers' meeting. Rachel, what more can you tell us about the deal made by some of the premiers?
Yeah, good afternoon. So yesterday, in what can really only be interpreted as a direct response to what U.S. President Donald Trump has done, 9 out of the 10 provinces got together and signed an agreement to see a long-standing commitment to allow direct-to-consumer alcohol sales across the country to be done with more ease. So in doing this, that will mean BC wine will be more readily available on Ontario shelves and vice versa. Now, of course, this has been an issue that they have been working towards for some time, but I do think with U.S. President Donald Trump taking aim at Canadian alcohol in response for his frustration over the U.S. booze ban, this was a move that premiers could make to indicate both they can do more within the country to keep each other afloat when it comes to alcohol, and directly responding to Trump and saying, you know, we don't need to free up any space on our shelves for your products because we're going to be bringing in more from across the country. So it was really a direct response from the premiers to the situation they're finding themselves in, and obviously the pressure from Trump has kind of lit the fire for them to see this longstanding commitment of direct-to-consumer sales, freeing the booze, so to speak, across the country, made a reality that much sooner.
Okay, so Prime Minister Mark Carney met with the premiers virtually, and now he's going to meet with them in person. He'd asked them to think about ways that they can perhaps contribute to the conversation. What's expected during the meeting?
Yeah, so it's going to be a continuation of the conversation they started virtually yesterday. Of course, kind of laying at the groundwork of what exactly the Trump administration has threatened here, getting a sense of what the economic impact will be in every province and territory. So now that that has been information they're able to gather, coming to the table tomorrow, I think it's going to be more a conversation of where do they go from here. And certainly premiers are going to want to hear from the Prime Minister what the federal government's plan is, what exactly does this intensified negotiation period over the next 30 days look like? Will there be a role for premiers to play in heading down there and trying to lobby their counterparts? Do they want to see the Prime Minister head down directly? So these are some of the questions I imagine will be kind of put up for discussion tomorrow when the Prime Minister gets here. And certainly the premiers are anxious about what this could mean, but differing opinions right now on how to best retaliate. Some people, of course, want to hit back as hard as possible, like Ford suggesting Canadian energy should be kind of pulled from the Americans. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith saying that is not the route she wants to go. So if a deal can't be reached to see these tariffs kind of staved off 30 days from now, that could be a high wire act for the Prime Minister to try to negotiate and navigate what his response would be, what kind of retaliation, if any, he is interested in doing in a way that the provinces and territories could be on side with.
Okay, so obviously the tariffs are a big part of the conversation. But other than the tariffs, what will the premiers be focusing on?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what today's meeting seems to be focusing in on, is all of the other agenda items that kind of got pushed to the wayside yesterday with all of the tariff reaction, bringing those back up. So yesterday was a tariff day, tomorrow will be a tariff day. And so what the premiers are doing today in the opportunity they have behind closed doors together is to try to focus on some of the issues that they came here to Charlottetown wanting to talk about. So we heard conversations this morning from premiers about the ongoing wildfire situation. Affordability is still a challenge across the country. Some concerns about the federal government's health transfer situation and making sure that the federal government is still paying their fair share, as provinces see it, into Canadians' health care. And then kind of tied into the interprovincial trade element, this conversation around province-to-province specific energy, infrastructure, natural resource projects, what more developments can be made on the sidelines or right around that big table here to advance some of those issues as well.
CTV's Rachel Aiello reporting for us. Thank you, Rachel.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump renewed his threat to attack Iranian infrastructure. The U.S. president says the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant anytime Tehran targets a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Both sides have dug in on their dispute over the crucial waterway for global energy. It's still mainly closed because of Iranian attacks. The Americans carried out another wave of strikes on Iran overnight and into today, and air defenses opened fire over Tehran. Iran launched a missile attack on a Jordanian city, and alerts were issued in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Peace negotiations remain largely stalled.
In central Spain, firefighters are battling a massive wildfire that has burned over 32,000 hectares. The blaze is one of the largest in the country's history. A heat wave is complicating firefighting efforts, with temperatures reaching up to 42 degrees. Other European countries are also facing extreme heat and fires.
In California, a great white shark was spotted swimming dangerously close to a group of young people playing in the ocean. The man who posted this video says the children had no idea the 10-foot predator was so close. Nobody was hurt. Now, this year has seen the highest number of shark sightings off the California coasts in a decade. Experts say that's because of an El Nino weather pattern that's warming up the ocean waters, and that it's leading to more sightings like this.
Wow. 6 beluga whales from Marineland are now swimming in their new homes in the U.S. Marineland and a group of U.S. aquariums helped move the first group of whales in a complex process which began on Monday. They say the animals are doing well, and the shuttered theme park originally planned to send its 30 belugas and 4 dolphins to an aquarium in China. But that plan was blocked by the federal fisheries minister. Instead, the animals are being sent to aquariums and marine parks in the U.S. and Spain.
Well, we have our second named storm of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. It is a tropical storm, and this is Bertha. This is what the storm looks like on the satellite and radar, swirling in the Gulf of Mexico and impacting areas already from the Florida Panhandle over toward Louisiana, including New Orleans. Now, this storm is expected to remain a tropical storm, not strengthen into a hurricane, but it will drift westward and bring soaking rains to the coast of Texas as well. Here at home, we have a below seasonal day today. In fact, some communities are going to struggle to even make it to these forecast daytime highs. But is it a bit of a one-off? Coming up, we'll talk about the warmer weather returning for the weekend and how muggy it could get as well. That's after the break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Oh, Lindsay, what a difference a few days makes. I was talking to my cousin this morning. She said, it's so cold outside. Kalita, you're exaggerating. It's not cold. It's just cool.
But it is all relative, right? I mean, Nathan, you talked about shorts versus pants. I wouldn't blame folks for...
I wouldn't say it's cold outside, but relatively compared to what we had a couple weeks ago, yeah, it is a difference. Definitely, it was a day maybe not to wear shorts, at least in the morning, until the sun kind of comes up.
It was only a week ago that we were in the throes of another heat wave, and then, of course, the wildfire smoke invaded, and today we have neither of those things. We don't have wildfire smoke lingering around, and we certainly don't have heat. It's a fresher feel. for sure out there, thanks in major part to some northwest winds and a cold front that moved through last night, bringing us the stormy weather. It is a quieter day today, but yeah, a little cool. Let's get to your forecast. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. One of our wonderful camera operators, Ted, was out in the Oshawa area this morning, and look what he spotted. A beautiful rainbow. Love to see that after a day of stormy weather. And of course, yeah, it's still taking a little bit for all of the clouds associated with that upper low to clear out. In fact, it will continue through the rest of this afternoon. We will hopefully see a little more sun as the day goes on. But yes, it is still pretty cloudy in parts of the GTA right now. And that too is contributing to the fall-like feel out there today. Look at this, teen temperatures in many parts of southern and northern Ontario today. Only 14 degrees this hour in North Bay. That's sweater weather to me. We're now at 19 degrees in the city of Toronto. Record to beat today is about 35 degrees. We don't have to worry about that happening. We will be below seasonal too. Average temperature this time of year is still about 27 degrees. And yeah, we're not even in the 20s quite yet. So evening sports forecast, a better night tonight. You don't have to worry about the threat of thunderstorms. You don't have to worry about poor air quality the same way. And yes, certainly more comfortable temperatures. If you want to go for that evening run, it's going to be a good day for it. And then overnight tonight, okay, once again, we are a little cool, dipping into single-digit temperature territory for places like Bancroft. 10 degrees for the low tonight around Goderich and Waterloo. And we're forecasting an overnight low of 13 degrees here in the city of Toronto. You will feel it early tomorrow morning. If you felt it today, I think you're going to notice it tomorrow. However, we do have a nice rebound in the afternoon to about 25 degrees, and temperatures, while still on the cool side of seasonal or slightly below, will be a little warmer tomorrow compared to today. And in some areas, the humidity is going to start to creep back in as early as Thursday. Here's the satellite and radar. Again, it's mainly just cloudiness around the GTA right now, areas north and east also. The wet weather predominantly is now close to the border with the province of Quebec. And as that low departs, we're still going to be dealing with some brisk winds through the day today, but high pressure is going to settle in, and we can expect mostly sunny skies for tomorrow, for Friday, and for Saturday. Although I do want to point out that now over the weekend, we do have a chance of a shower. That's especially true for Sunday. Going to keep an eye on that one. Slight chance for Saturday. Temperatures, though, back to seasonal, flirting with 30, in fact, for the weekend. And it is going to be a little muggy, especially on Sunday and then into the early part of next week, feeling into the mid and upper 30s. That's the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Blue Jays sit 6 games out of the final playoff spot and will look to avoid a 4th straight loss when they continue their series with the Tampa Bay Rays tonight.
Off the end of the bat, down the right field line, and it's dropping in for a base hit. And the Rays have an early 2-0 lead.
The Rays took a 3-0 lead in the first inning last night and continued scoring from there. The Jays gave up 21 hits as they were beaten 12-2. The teams will square off again just after 7 tonight. Meanwhile, as the Jays continue to tumble down the standings and Major League Baseball's August 3rd trade deadline approaches, rumors are swirling about whether the team will move players. Pitchers Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber, as well as outfielder Dalton Varsho, are all considered possible trade candidates.
Toronto FC will be looking for its first win in nearly 4 months when the team takes on the New England Revolution tonight. TFC last won a game on April 4th and is currently on a 9-game winless streak. The team currently sits in 12th place in Major League Soccer's Eastern Conference. TFC will play 2 more matches on the road after tonight before returning to BMO Field for the first time since before the FIFA World Cup on August 15th. Now, kickoff tonight against the New England Revolution is set for 7:30 in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Meanwhile, the Canadian men's soccer team will return from its run at the World Cup with a couple of matches this fall. The Canadians will host Chile at BMO Field in Toronto on September 26th and Peru in Montreal on October 3rd. Canada played both teams in the group stage of the 2024 Copa America. We defeated Peru. We were playing. Canada defeated Peru 1-0 and tied Chile 0-0. The match in Toronto will mark Canada's return to BMO Field after earning its first ever World Cup point in a 1-1 draw with Bosnia-Herzegovina. Who can forget that on June 9th?
The Toronto Tempo have officially hit the halfway point of their inaugural season, and Tempo guard Kia Nurse says the team's received a lot of support.
I tried to explain it to a lot of my friends who are not from Canada that this was going to be Canada's team, and you have an entire country getting behind you. I mean, it's a truly different feeling and a different experience when you have that. But for me, I think looking at Toronto and how they embraced the 2-year kind of announcement that built up to the team actually being here, I had a feeling that this was going to be something that was going to take off as quickly as it did, and it has been more than I could have imagined.
The Tempo have a 10-16 record at the All-Star break, good for 11th in the WNBA's Eastern Conference. The team will be back on the court July 28th when they take on the Minnesota Lynx. Still to come, a new report is outlining the occupations most impacted by the opioid epidemic. Those details when we come back.
Welcome back. Researchers behind a new report examining the occupations of people who have died from opioid overdoses are hoping it'll raise awareness about the number of people impacted by the opioid epidemic. The report found that more than a third of opioid-related deaths between 2018 and 2024 involved people who worked in construction or the trades. The lead author says the research reaffirms previous findings that construction workers are disproportionately impacted. However, the study also notes the rate of opioid deaths was similar for workers in natural resources and agriculture. Well, doctors in Montreal were able to successfully complete an extremely risky surgery.
They operated on a woman's brain while she was pregnant. CTV's Sweta Rassi has the details.
Before and then after.
These brain scans of Zupa Nakayisimatego are a reminder just how quickly life can change. It all began January of 2025. She was working out at the gym when she felt a sudden pop in her head.
I was very dizzy. I couldn't see properly.
She was in severe pain. Her husband took her to the hospital where she found out she had suffered a stroke, which caused bleeding in her brain. Dr. Marie-Christine Brunet at the Montreal Neurological Institute says her condition was rare.
The incidence is about 1 or 2 per 100,000 population.
Nakayisimatego needed surgery, but there was also something else. She was nearly 6 months pregnant. Doctors gave her the option to wait until after she gave birth, but if left untreated, it could lead to a coma or even death. So she decided to go ahead with the surgery.
I had a feeling that my baby would be okay.
Call it a mother's intuition because she was right. After a 10-hour surgery, Nakayisimatego recovered well, and months later, she gave birth to a baby girl. Dr. Brunet says it took a lot of doctors to pull it off, including specialists from the Montreal Children's Hospital.
And they were here on a standby just in case something would happen and we would have to deliver the baby prematurely.
Operating on a pregnant patient is not something Dr. Brunet does often, but for Nakayisimatego, there's no doubt she had the right doctor on her side.
She did this incredible thing and she saved 2 lives.
And after a scary start for both mom and baby, they now have the most important gift anyone could ask for: their health. Sweta Rassi, CTV News.
A new set of graphic health warnings is coming to cigarette packages across the country. The new designs feature images highlighting the impact of smoking on both health, or make that on both smokers and those around them. The Canadian Cancer Society says the warnings have been shown to reduce smoking since they debuted in 2001, and rotating to a new set keeps them from becoming stale. Canada was the first country to require package warnings, and in 2024, it became the first to require warnings on individual cigarettes. 6 new messages are coming to that format as well, with the updating messaging required by August 1st.
Still to come, auto sales were up across Canada last month despite ongoing headwinds. We'll delve into the numbers and see what experts have to say on the longer-term trends. That's just ahead on CTV News at noon. Clothing manufacturers are bracing for the potential impact of new U.S. tariffs.
The industry has been protected by the Kuzma trade deal, but that may no longer be the case soon. CTV's Matt Gilmore has the details.
In the heart of the plateau, factory workers hand-stitch high-quality boots to be sold across Canada and the United States.
Doesn't exist. We're probably the last ones.
Maintaining these local manufacturing jobs is a point of pride for Pajar. But the head of global sales says new 50% tariffs on Canadian-made clothing and apparel could make that impossible.
It's a big threat on the survival of the factory, of course, because you're looking at huge increases in tariffs, definitely reduced business.
Boots made here are covered under the CUSMA Free Trade Agreement. Until now, those products have been shielded from Trump's tariffs. No more.
CUSMA was your comfort zone. We produced for years. We shipped to the U.S. and then CUSMA is in jeopardy or under review, question mark. And then this happens.
It will for sure mean higher prices for American consumers.
You can absorb 2, 3, 4, 5 percentage points and just, accept it as part of doing business. But the moment you're in the 10, 15, and in this case, 25 for international, 50 to Canada, it's beyond what can be absorbed.
But with the already high cost of living, Greg Nikogosian says he doesn't know how much more customers will be willing to pay.
Definitely makes us worry and start thinking about our future.
Without a deal in place that provides certainty for manufacturers, business groups fear investors will continue to look elsewhere.
We're losing investment, we're losing GDP, we're losing manufacturing jobs as well in the different regions of Quebec. And, there's the impact it has today, but we have to look in the future on the impact it will have on our economy.
And with new sectors now caught under the weight of a trade war, there's even more pressure on the government to find a solution. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
As tensions with the U.S. disrupt Canada's auto sector, a new report is highlighting some positive signs when it comes to car sales. June marked a positive sales month with an estimated 182,000 vehicles sold nationwide, up 1.9% from last year. That was a stark contrast to the pattern of decreases that started in October 2025. The numbers come from DesRosiers Automotive Consultants. Now, it says the shift isn't significant enough to consider the longer negative trend over, but it's a welcome sign given the various headwinds that the new light vehicle market faces. The only province that saw fewer auto sales in June compared to last year was Ontario.
With summer travel season well underway, flight delays linked to air traffic control issues are way down compared to last year. NAV Canada is not for profit that provides the services across the country. It looked at the number of flights at Toronto Pearson and 3 other major international airports, which were impacted by either its own staffing or its own equipment. From May 1st through to July 7th, there was a 91% drop in those flight delays year over year. NAV Canada says that's despite an increase in air traffic. The organization credited increased staffing and other parts of its operational readiness plan for the summer.
Coming up, taking cereal to space. A Canadian brand has received a boost after being contacted by NASA. We'll have those details when we come back. A Canadian breakfast brand has received an out-of-this-world boost.
Astronauts ate the cereal aboard the Orion spacecraft during the Artemis II mission after the company was contacted by NASA. CTV's Karis Mapp has the details.
A historic launch for Canadians, not only because of the astronaut aboard, but also what helped fuel him during the Artemis II mission.
Canadian Jeremy Hansen, Canadian Space Agency, it makes sense that we're going to support him. He chose our strawberry lavender superseed cereal flavor, and it was approved for launch.
The stellar story began with the cereal company that launched during the pandemic, receiving an email in the summer of 2024.
It was from the Canadian Space Agency, which we didn't really know existed. We obviously are all familiar with NASA, but we kind of ignored it at first. We thought it was a junk email.
Further research proved the email to be legitimate, and the gravity of the space agency's request for Goldie's cereal settled in.
They were looking for a Canadian brand, a product that had super long shelf life, a product that was very light in weight, like the mass is light, a product that is nutritionally dense, easy to prepare, and a product that doesn't crumble like a cookie would crumble.
Once cleared for takeoff, the pair and their product were flown down to Florida for the launch.
We had to get the right amount of product down in time to Cape Canaveral for this launch, and we stocked the ship.
Getting to watch their cereal being part of the pricey project.
I think we were told that it cost $10,000 per kilogram to get anything into space.
The Daniel duo have been friends for over 30 years now. Schreiber attended Wilfrid Laurier University and now tries to give back to the next generation of students.
They used us as a case study, so it was really exciting, obviously, to be there and share that experience with Schreiber, because obviously that was his old school, and just kind of walking those halls again from a different perspective.
One small spoonful for man, one giant crunch for mankind. Karis Mapp, CTV News.
Meal of the day.
Quick question. Did you have breakfast this morning?
Every morning.
And?
Without doubt.
First thing I do when I wake up.
Wow, you
And how about yourself?
I've started to. I was doing intermittent fasting, and then I've read all these studies that stop it.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I
You know,
prefer-
just have your breakfast.
I like
so.
intermittent eating.
Good one.
Anyway.
Good one.
Well, it's lunchtime now, and if you're hoping to maybe enjoy lunch outside, it is dry in most parts of the GTA, but we do still have a bit of cloudiness. We are expecting that to clear on out, so that would be a good thing. Here's a look at our overnight temperature tonight. Yeah, this is a little chilly for this time of year. 13 degrees. It'll be a cool start to tomorrow, but an afternoon high of 25 degrees I think is pretty comfortable. Next 3 days are filled with sunshine. A reminder, though, we're going to keep an eye on the weekend, especially Sunday, for the chance of some wet weather in the form of showers. It is going to be warmer and a little humid through next week, too. Nathan and Andrea.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
Intermittent eating. I love that. For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Andrea Case.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a good day.
Bye. What's